massive opportunity. I think it's given publishers an opportunity to really redefine the commercial policy around how content is accessed and really change people's expectations about paying for content, which has been a fantastic opportunity. But the threat that I think publishers and all content providers are grappling with is that direct relationship with the consumer.
Yep.
And currently the model that's been established by Apple, which removes that direct connection between the subscriber and the content originator, has become a kind of default standard in a really rapidly adopted way, and that I think is one of the big threats that publishers need to be dealing with and working around. But there's no question in our minds that people who have a tablet are reading more, they're enjoying the brand more, they're spending more time with it, and we find, for example, that people who are reading the Wall Street Journal on their tablet and actively using it are also using the website more actively. So it's just a much more engaged audience, and it's been a really important part of our growth story.
Good.
Yeah, we're seeing more time spent on site and more engagement through the tablets as well. I guess I'd step back just a little bit and say everything that's a change could be perceived as a threat. But I think that because it's changing the business model. The way we're looking at it is this notion of all access is bundling the digital solution with the print. And if we really want to encourage people to use digital, who want to use digital and extend our footprint of, because we're sort of geographically bound in Greater Boston, then we're going to be able to convince people that this is a reading experience is something that really plugs into the way they want to consume news and information, which is sitting around a table or walking into the living room or doing it on the subway, and starting to offer an alternative that's a viable alternative to the form factor that's print. The one other piece to that, though, that I would also touch on, and why I see it as an opportunity that's good for us as publishers, we've seen a lot of traffic move from web to mobile. And from an ad perspective, there aren't standards around mobile at this point, and there isn't really ironically, there are complaints that we're hearing that there's just not enough analytics around mobile. The reality is there isn't a great business case around what to do with all that traffic as it moves more and more mobile, and that's going to accelerate as well. So getting people to consume on tablet gives us a better form factor that plays into at least the way we're hearing advertisers think about the way they want to message their consumers at this point as well.
And it is so new, 2 years into it with the tablet, and it seems to me, and the threat part of it, and you're right, we can always find threats and fears out there. One publisher told me that in their planning, they expect that 25% of their print readers will be tablet. These are print subscribers, will be tablet-only readers in 2 or 3 years. And so they're trying to plan their business as much as you can, right, around that fact. So if they are this combined all-access hybrid and you can monetize them in print, that's good. If they're really switching, well, how well can you monetize them? And since we got format issues, and Elisa is involved with the Online Publishers Association, ad formats, all kinds of standards there. What do we know so far about advertising and the tablet? And let me also add on advertising on the smartphone, because as you said, a lot of this mobile usage is moving, but the smartphone has not been a good medium in general. So advertising and mobile. Well,
with your first assertion, I would say that at the Wall Street Journal, we're almost at that level already, where we're seeing significant amount of usage of our iPad applications by our print subscribers, and that has been incredibly encouraging because we were planning on how we would bring people across the bridge, but they're marching, they're running, and they're loving it. So that has been really fantastic. I think advertising definitely is a challenge, not only because of the logistics around serving the creative and the cost of creating the creative for our clients, but also the metrics and the measurement around those are incredibly immature. And so when we go to talk to the major brands that advertise with us, there are many who understand and who really appreciate the different form factor and the richness of the iPad in a way that puts it in a different bucket for them than traditional online advertising, because they can do beautiful layouts and they're impactful and they're big and they're glossy and they're gorgeous. But at the same time, the costs of creating that are pretty significant, and the logistics around serving and measuring and evaluating those campaigns are difficult. So I would say it's very much a work in progress. But the advertising and marketing community do have an insatiable appetite for learning about what's working on iPads, how people are spending time with them. They're incredibly encouraged by the engagement that Chris mentioned. I think all publishers are seeing tremendously exciting engagement levels with their iPad applications. And there was a story in the Journal about the iPad becoming, the greatest e-commerce device of all time, because not only are people engaging with content at a very heavy level, but they're engaging in online purchasing and online research at a really incredible pace. So I think the industry hasn't quite figured out how to put all that together and come up with a GRP. That's kind of the holy grail that we're still working on in digital, even in the web platform, which is 15 years old. Yeah. But I think as far as iPad goes, the rapid adoption and the pretty heavy appetite for understanding how all these mediums work together is certainly there, and we're making some progress. I think we're making more progress as an industry with something like the tablet than we have and ever did with mobile. So as far as advertising businesses or advertising business models go with mobile, I would say that's still a significant issue for traditional publishers. I think if you've got a local proposition, or you've got a time-based proposition, or you've got a heavily retail-oriented proposition, there are some models that are beginning to emerge which kind of look interesting. But for publishers like us, it's still a challenge.
I want to go back to something that Elisa mentioned early on, which is controlling the information around the reader as well. Because if you look at mobile and you look at digital, you talk about targeting, you think about the value of something like smartphones, and you think about geolocation in serving up contextual ads. If you don't know anything except the physical location, then you're constrained about what value you can provide to the advertisers, which is why we adopted a similar approach, which is to make sure that the subscription model and the individual subscriber relationship stays primarily with us as we move forward.
And this offline-online connection is an interesting one, where we know that the knowledge of the consumer, of all of us, as we are, I imagine about everybody in here is a hybrid user of print and digital. And this connection to see the whole customer and to see as much as you can of what they're doing with print, at least who they are and what they're doing with digital. Talk about that and how you're viewing the audience. I know that's a work in progress too in terms of technology.
Sure.
But talk about what you had to do at the Globe, for instance, to try to get closer to a whole view of that.
Yeah, so we recognized the need to diversify the revenue as we moved into digital, and we did some research. And what we found is that we have Boston.com, which has existed since 1995 and has been very successful as a regional news and information website. 50% of the people who were coming to Boston.com didn't realize they were accessing Boston Globe information.